All right, everybody, thanks for being here tonight. We have a pretty good, pretty exciting show. It's going to be about, you know, the boat itself, the Noah, his family, the animals, everything when it comes to right up to leading to getting in the boat, being in the boat, and getting out. So it's going to be a lot of, a lot of different things we're going to cover tonight. We're going to obviously use some scriptures, but also give some speculation and ideas of other information as well as input from other, books that are out there. So yeah, it's going to be super exciting. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say hi to who is with me today at the table. We got, as always, my brother Anthony Dickinson. How you doing tonight, sir?
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Frank, Vader Bear, Shabbat Shalom, everybody in chat. Um, thank y'all for coming out and hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. It's a pretty cool thing, right? It's been a while, hasn't it, since we did like an actual episode. So it almost feels it's kind of nervous. It's like, wait, how do we do this again? Because like in our last few things, it's been we've had guests on, or we had that awesome set of testimonies for Rob, and so not only that, but we also I would actually look it up right now as here in a second, but it'd be interesting to know like how long it's actually been since we did a numbered episode. But anyways, before that, I'll go and say hello to our amazing, talented creator of Love Is Your Witness, Frankie B. How you doing this Shabbat there, brother?
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Yeah, we've had a really some really good streams the last month or so. We've had Austin, we've had that fat fellow, we had the Rob tribute. We premiered the song last week. It's been a really exciting month of broadcast. You know what I mean? Now we're back on the grind, back digging into the scriptures. Should be good. Looking forward to it.
Oh yeah,
Hello, everybody in the chat. Shabbat shalom. Go ahead, Vader.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, dude. I'm excited too, right? But it's like as you were talking, I'm pulling it up, and I just want to see what is y'all's guess of how many episodes it's been, just right off the top of your head, that it's been since we did a numbered episode.
I'll say six.
Let's see here. Um, so one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. It's
Oh,
literally
I
been
was close.
seven. Yeah. So very interesting. But yeah, I'm super excited. It's kind of funny, right? No, whoa, it's been seven episodes since an unnumbered episode, and this is number seventh episode. So that's kind of funny. 7-7 there.
Yeah.
Totally not playing. That's so cool. Anyways, so yeah, we may have some other people join us along the way. If not, then yeah, anyone is always if they want to join, look in the descriptions. There's the Discord, and come and talk to us. And yeah, we'd love to add people to the table. So, anyways, to move kind of from on that, let's go ahead and get on to the the kind of things that we want to bring up and kind of talk about before the episode starts out. Do
Well, I think you're right. It is. It does kind of feel weird getting back into the grind of things. I had just about done forgot where we had left off.
Yeah, it's been a while, right? Because we had like we got all the way up to it, and then we had that procession, and then we had that I think we had the after the procession it was the I had that the yellow chair where I gave that presentation about deception, and then the next episode was their first time streaming on Take of the World. Shout out Take On to the World to Chris and letting us be here on their channel and broadcast our thoughts and our opinions and our perspectives on their channel, and it's been
I'm
a
not,
very big blessing for sure.
not sure if we are over there right now. It doesn't seem to be working. Did I
Well, it
lose it?
should be a good stream. We don't have too much competition going with us. I mean, the last couple of weeks, we were going against Sean,
It's working
Blaze,
now.
Austin. I think it looks like we're the only ones that are on. Take on the world.
Yes, it shows to be working now. It just went to working though, but anyway,
Yeah,
sorry
they
about
are on Take on the World. Says that there's a live broadcast going
Okay,
on there.
awesome. Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Okay, awesome. I think we're good to go. Sorry about that delay there, guys. But yeah, so we had the Take on the World. Again, shout out to them. And then the next time after that was Wits It Gets It. And then we had our second Jubilees because it was our second set of 7 videos. And then we were gonna do it last week, but obviously we would rather have spent our time, giving Rob a shout out than continue on. So it's also kind of sobering, right? Because it's like I don't know. It's like it's different now, and I know y'all know what I'm talking about, but for I think we're blessed, and I'm also very appreciative to the people that came before us, obviously including Rob. So, anyways, all right, so yeah, let's actually get on to the show. We have a pretty interesting topic. So the name of the episode is Cleansed. So this is kind of my thoughts about what happened with the flood, and I'd really like to talk about those as well as y'all's thoughts and kind of, see what we think. So, um, yeah, let's go ahead and kind of get into it. Um, last time in
Hey,
script, go ahead.
hey, real quick, Raider. Before the flood, it was a dry plain, wasn't it?
That's very interesting. But I think there was seas though, right? It
I
didn't
don't
say
know.
there was rain, but
I'm sure there had to be some natural springs coming up, like just to water to go, to water the realm, and but I don't think there was really any large bodies of water. Maybe a
I
lake here and
I,
there.
I think specifically because you have like Leviathan as an example in Job. You have
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so and it was a water creature. So I think there's always been oceans, and I think there's a lot of kind of confusion there when it comes to like some of those words and the way they're used and they're interjected because of our English language. So um, yeah. Anyway, so not to kind of push away from what you were saying, but kind of my thoughts is let's go to scripture. I'll share it on screen. We'll kind of read it and then let's talk about it. And then we should be able to do that fairly fast. So um, let me pull that up. It'll be just a minute. Where is that? Boom. Need to see you.
well, I do believe that he separated the land from the water and called them seas and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that back in. But as far as the rain, that is a good question. I've wondered that myself.
All right. All right. So here we go. So obviously, guys, read them in all different versions. I just like King James Version, specifically reading it because I think it sounds the best. Obviously, these words are grabbled, so go look into this stuff deeply yourself. Like, this is us sharing what we've dug into and what we've learned, and we totally reserve the right to be wrong. But Scripture, is at least testifiable when you do your research. So, anyways. We'll go to Genesis 6. Now, I know we kind of read into this before, um, but I want to kind of skip here to 8, because we know he set out to destroy all of that was on the world. But so Genesis 6:8, and then I'm going to read from there. So, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generation of Noah. Noah was just a man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with Yah. And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was corrupt before God. Oh, sorry. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And Yah looked up on the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And Yah said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shall thou make in the ark, and pitch it within, and pitch it without, and without with pitch. And this is the fashion that ye shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. And a window shall thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above, and the door of the ark shall thou set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shall thou make it. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with thee I shall establish my covenant, oh, my, my covenant, and thou shalt and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee, and every living thing of flesh, 2 of every sort shall bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of the fowls after their kind, and after the cattle after the kind, and after every creeping thing of the earth after his kind. 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. And take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and I shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah according to all that Yah commanded him. He did. So he did. So, anyways, that all to say, that he's getting ready. He's getting on the ark, and it's happening, right? And um, it's just so cool that, like, even though, like, all flesh was corrupt, and he still gave us a way, like, even though he was up against a sea, or the Red Sea, it still was split. There was still made a way. And it's like, even though the angel of death hovered over them, he still made a way. And it's just like, over and over and over, the Father showing us that he'll make a way, and so much more for those who seek him and want him, and want to have that relationship with him. And it obviously, we know that about um, Noah, because right here it straight up says, let me go back. Sorry, I was showing 7. Um, and Noah walked with Yah. So we know, like, he was doing the behavior that Yah considers good enough to walk with him, and calling him a just man and perfect in his generations, which this right here is interesting because like I feel like a lot of the church that I grew up in basically just took that word as its face value and meant like, oh, that, like a millennial or like a generation Y, it's just he was perfect. He was the best in his, generation Noah. But obviously, when you look into this word, which I would love to do, um, there's some interesting thoughts. But before I do that, did y'all have any thoughts about that?
I actually wanted to read a little bit from the book of Joshua, if that's cool.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
verses. But this is Joshua chapter 6, starting in verse 4. It says this was just interesting to me, but it says, and Noah went and seated himself by the door of the ark, and of all the flesh and of all flesh that crouched before him, he brought into the ark, and all that stood before him he left upon earth. And a lioness came with her two whelps, male and female, and the three crouched before Noah, and the two whelps rose up against the lioness and smote her, and made her flee from her place, and she went away. And they returned to their places and crouched upon the earth before Noah. And the lioness ran away and stood in the place of the lions. And Noah saw this and wondered greatly as he rose and took the two whelps and brought them into the ark. Yeah, that's a pretty cool sacrifice right there, in my opinion. The lioness brought her cubs up there to and sacrificed herself to be on the ark.
Yeah, that's interesting. Cause
Yeah,
like,
that is interesting. Pretty
cause,
cool.
cause at least nowadays, like, like animals will like almost always like if it's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna die, like they'll defend. But if they're like, oh, I'm gonna die or get hurt if I try to save my, my offspring, most of the time they run away. I feel like, like birds don't just sit there in the nest when, you know, snakes come to gobble their eggs, as an example.
Right. That must be, the compassion of Yah to comfort her to, put her children on the ark. You know what I mean? She must have had comfort
Well, I think before the ark,
from the
though, I think
spirit.
they were all, I think they were smart, right? It's not like Noah went out and gathered them. They had
No,
a
they all
relationship with the father, and they were like, he was like, hey, you specifically all go to this place, and they all made their way to that place.
exactly like the spirit talked to them and led them there. They knew where to go. And there's I've heard that there was seven of the clean animals and
So there is,
only
yeah, there is more interesting information out there in other books. Now I don't know if it necessarily matters. Now, if this is my thing, it's like if you take the size of the right, because we were just looking. Let me bring that back up on screen. Um, if you look at it gives the dimensions of it, right? So like if we can like look at, for instance, what I think Ken Ham made and was like, okay, so he said a cubit equals this much, right? Because we can do division. Um, then we'll know like, okay, could this amount of animals fit on there? Or is it just the two animals as it says in normal scripture? Or when it's saying, like, when it's using the specific language, two of every sort shall bring into the ark, you know what I mean? Is it like two horses, two zebras, two donkeys, two, you know what I mean? Or is it like two tigers, two lions, two, or was it like the the original animals, because we'll get into that a little bit, but I kind of have an idea of how the size of the ark makes sense with the amount of animals we have now today, and then why that all works and still fits in together. But
Well, well,
go ahead.
you only need two of each species, like two of any dogs that are alike. And then when you put the animal in a different environment, it adapts to it, and then that's giving us all of our different breeds. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. So
And
specifically
folks are-
talking about like the dog. Sorry, and I just want to say specifically talking about that. That's what I'm kind of saying is I think there was two lions. Like let's just call them lions, but they're not in the idea of our lions. Like they were the original big cat, right? And
brother, it says right here in Joshua though that
mhm.
they're cubs. She sacrificed herself for her cubs. She brought her cubs up there to Noah
Well,
to
that
be.
would make sense too to transport baby animals because they would be easier to fit in the ark. And
But the only issue with that is then they wouldn't have. You would want to take adults because how we're like, do you think that, okay, well that's kind of an interesting idea. Do you think that that's another reason why animals started behaving the way that they did, because the babies coming off, the cubs coming off, let's say the tigers, they didn't know they could eat the grass, and they saw something running and they went and attacked it, and then are like, oh, I can eat this thing. You know what I mean? And so then
isn't there
their
a verse,
offspring start,
Vader? Isn't there a verse that Yah put the fear of man in the animals, where after that, then they started to become carbonistic or carnivores. I'm not saying the word right.
Carnivore.
Carnival. Yeah, they became carnival after that, and I thought that was after the flood where he put that where that because they might have all been vegetarian or they might have all ate
Yeah, that's
grass and different trees and different fruits and you know
yeah,
what I mean.
that's in Genesis 9. Yeah.
So he put the fear in them after the flood. Yeah, so that would be so they would all be I don't know they would all be vegetarians or there's probably another
well,
word.
because what I was saying is like I don't know, because
Grass fed.
there is scripture to indicate that everything ate herbs before the ark, right? So like even the lions and the tiger, and that
Yeah,
totally makes
herb.
sense because you can look at panda bears and all they're big sharp teeth carnivores, sharp claws, but they eat bamboo, right? And they get all that protein from the bamboo.
Right.
So,
We know that wasn't transporting dinosaurs because we know they didn't exist.
yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, and even with that, with like lizards, I feel like lizards would almost be super easy to take care of because like those eggs, you just keep them warm and like, but anyways, like,
You know what? Some of the reptiles might have actually been able to live during the flood.
well,
You know what I
well,
mean?
it says, and behold, even I, do bring flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is there breath of life from under heaven. Everything that is in the earth shall die.
Right.
All right. Oh,
And,
that
and
that clears that up. Thanks.
for those seeking Yahuwah, he says, you should take with you of every clean animal by sevens, male, male and a female, and of the animals that are not clean, two, a male and his female. That's
Yeah,
Genesis.
where's that at? Is that in Jasher or in?
No, it's Genesis 7:2.
Yeah, we're
Oh, oh,
about
so
we're yeah we're about to get to Genesis 7. We're
okay, and
actually
it does say seven. It does say seven.
Uh huh.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, well, I always thought it was two by two.
Yeah, and also, I mean,
well, it
y'all were
literally does say 2 by 2. Um, But then Genesis 7, it like it talks about specifically the beasts. It doesn't
Okay.
talk about like the creepy crawly things. You could say I don't know, because like for instance, if let's just say they're talking about spiders, right? You wouldn't need like you would just need an egg sac, right? Like would you need to actually have the spiders did all like so that's an interesting topic to kind of talk about. But let's go ahead and just read through the rest of this, at least 7, and then add that into what we just had on 6, and then kind of discuss it a little bit more. So, and then it says, "And the Lord said to Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen
Wait,
righteousness before me
wait.
in this generation." Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, I wanted to cover one more thing in Genesis 6. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm very sorry to interrupt, brother. I wanted to cover one more thing in Genesis 6 from Joshua though, from the book of Joshua 6:24.
Okay.
Oh, I just thought it was real interesting, and it says, and of course now this is after the people are coming to the ark. Is that it's cloudy, it's fixing to rain, or it is raining, or they know something's coming, and this is when they come to the ark and they're trying to fight to get in and stuff. But Noah keeps telling them, no, I gave you 120 years to come on here, or whatever it is. Anyways, in verse 24 it says, "And the sons of men approached in order to break into the ark, to come in on account of the rain, for they could not bear the rain upon them. And Yahuwah sent all the beasts and the animals that stood round the ark, and the beast overpowered them and drove them from that place. And every man went his way, and they again scattered themselves upon the face of the earth." But anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting how the animals just jumped in and run all the people off.
Mhm. Yeah, that is interesting. Because we've talked before, like we all think that animals were intelligent and could probably conversed with us and talked with us. So,
Yeah, Jubilee.
is it surprising that they would also help us and be our friends and companions? You know what I mean? Dude,
Well, in the original,
I would be honest, dude. I am very, like, I don't even want to say jealous, but I think it is very cool that Noah got to be around all those animals. Like all of them, you know what I mean? Like think about like even like did everyone who was alive see every animal? Like he saw every animal. And maybe not today's now animals in our adaptations, but you know what I mean? I just think it's really cool to think about a man getting to see like all of Yah's creations in one place, like his living, breathing creations.
in the original creation model, they were created for us to fellowship with. That's what it seemed like when Yah brought him to Adam to name them. It seemed like he had created fellowship with the animals for us. You know what I mean? It was the garden was a utopia, so everything was perfectly intertwined together, and it makes a lot of sense that Adam could communicate with the animals and probably all of his descendants until he put the fear of man in the animals. You know what I mean?
Well, we are supposed to carry the gospel to all of God's creations. I think that's including animals too.
You know what? I have a pretty good relationship with my dogs, we have a. It seems like the spirit has given me a unique way to communicate with them. Like I'll talk into my dog's ear. He'll cry. I'll cry at him, and he seems to get real good fellowship out of that. It's like it literally. I feel like I'm communicating with him. You know what I mean?
Back
Like
whenever, back whenever we was logging, we found we run the mama pig off. It was some wild hogs out there, and I think it was like 13 of them. And my skidder driver picked one up and he carried it around with him all day, but decided he didn't want it, so I brought it home. and this thing had just been born. It was just maybe a day or two old. Um, but anyway, I left it in the house for that first night. Well, I went to reading the Bible out loud, and that pig was just kind of minding its own business until I started reading the scriptures out loud. And it got so excited. It wanted to be right up next to me. It could not get enough of the scriptures. And
Well, they
not
say that
only
pigs
that,
are really smart too.
but not only
Sorry.
once, and it was two or three different times it happened. It was pretty cool. It was like it was so excited to hear the words that were in the Bible.
Well, everything's created around the scriptures and for and through the scriptures, and they say that pigs are very, very intelligent animals. You know what I mean? They
They
Well,
have a
yeah,
they
I
really are.
I think they're supposed to be like the same intelligence of like a dog. My only thing against them, like I like we had used to have like a mini pig. I had a pig growing up. So I've been around pigs. They're most of the part they're like depending on what, like if they're a pet, then they're nice, but if you just mess with a, like one out in the field, they'll bite you and run you off. Um but what I always bring up is the fact that there was a herd of swine near near, when the man had the legion in him, and the legion went out into the pigs instead of being destroyed or whatever, and then the pigs ran off. Like, it could have literally been any other animal, right? Don't we all agree that the father could have had a herd of sheep or llama or goats or any other animal there, a herd of kittens? You know what I mean? But he specifically had pigs there, and I think that's a very interesting thing. All right. Well, I was there anything else that you were trying to read there, Anthony?
No, I'm sorry, man. I had to step away for just a second. Yeah, I agree with you, but we can move on. I just wanted to say that before we moved on to the next chapter. So I
Oh,
didn't mean any.
yeah. No worries. No worries. No interruption at all. Let's go and move to the next chapter. All right. So, this is Genesis 7. I'm just gonna go read it through. So, and the Lord, excuse me. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and take all thy house into the ark, for thee I have seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean animal thou shalt take to thee by seven, the male and and his female, and of the beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female. Of the fowls also of the air by seven, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according unto all of the Lord had commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of the waters was upon the earth. 600 years old. That's insane. And Noah went into, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him, into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Of the clean beasts, and of the beasts that are not clean, of the fowl, and every living thing that creepeth upon the earth, there went into unto Noah into the ark, and the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. Guys, this is this is crazy. Okay, anyways, upon the earth in the hundredth year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 7th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broke open, and the windows of heaven were open, and the rain upon the earth was 40 days and 40 nights. And in the self same day entered Noah and Shem and Japheth, Ham and Japheth, and the sons of Noah, and the Noah's wives, and the three wives of his son, and with them into the ark, and They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in unto the Noah into the ark, two of all flesh, within there is breath. Am I reading this again? No, it literally says it again. Okay, sorry. Um, and they went in male and female of all flesh, and God commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. Oh, I'm doing it again. Am I? Nope, I am not. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bare up the ark, and it was lift up above the earth. And the waters prevailed, and every increase and were increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceeding upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 50 cubits upward did the water prevail, and every mountain were covered. And all flesh died that moveth upon the earth, both of fowl and cattle and beasts, and everything that creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. And in whose nostril was the breath of life, all that was in the dry land died. And every living substance that was destroyed, which was on the face of the earth, both man and cattle, and creeping thing, and fowl of the earth, and they were destroyed from the earth, and Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Let's talk about that, guys. What are y'all's thoughts?
Did you read the chapter twice?
No, I think that's really interesting. So it literally does state it twice. So it says, and the rain was upon the earth for 40 days, and it says they all entered, right? And then it literally says, um, in 40 days again. Where's it at? It says 40 days there.
Where is there?
Okay, so 7:12 it says, and the rain was upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. And then 17 it also says, and the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the water increased and brake up the ark, and it was lifted above the earth. So it kind of does almost repeat itself, but it's like it's not exactly repeating itself. But like, and it says they and every beast. Like, so 14 talks about they and every beast, and then if you go and look at um, where is it? Where is it at?
All right. So when did the all right, we know that after the flood, we know that Canaan and everything came from Ham, right? So why was he on the ark if he had a tainted bloodline?
So that's kind of what I want to talk about. I don't know. So they're saying, like, there are people out there saying, like, that it was the bloodline of Ham or excessive that that was in their blood, right? I want to tend to disagree, and this is why. Now, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves to answer your question, but what I want to say to it is, so what when it in Genesis 7 when it says in every man, what is that talking about?
Is is what
So
we're talking?
Genesis 6:21 it says, and all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both fowl and cattle, and every beast, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. All in those whose nostrils had the breath of life, all that was in the dry land died. So we know from Genesis 6 that we had all these Nephilim, right? All these giants, all of this um, not only in man, but also all the corruption in the animals too, right? From Enoch. So, so what happened when all of a sudden all
No,
of those giants died?
yeah, they had a big war. they were the offspring of the angels were taken out before the flood
No, well,
because
yeah, that well they
the
were
angels
fighting all
watched,
the way up to it, I believe.
yeah the angels had to watch their children die, and then that's when I think the floods came and everything like that to get what was left. I think
Yeah.
that was judgment that was put upon those angels that
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying that no, no um, Nephilim
Maybe
or giant died before the flood. I think more so they did because that's what I think the creations of these chimeras were literally meat sack vehicles for the unclean spirits to inhabit. And so it's saying everything that had the quote unquote breath of life. That's including anything that creeping on the ground, anything that was on dry land died, right? And what my point is I think that caused a great influx of unclean spirits, okay? So you have okay, so we've gone through this and we know that the water's going to come down, come back down, and we'll get to that just in a minute, but when it did come down and they were on the boat, getting off the boat, they were immediately would have had been affected by those unclean spirits. One and two, I think that because of so, and we'll track this down, right? Because we're making our way to the most specialist of special boys when it comes to the evil one. But I think what Ham did was in parts the was in part the makings, the creations of Nimrod, because I think that maybe Ham found technology and information that was possibly left over pre-flood, and was able to then bring that type of genetic manipulation back into, like they
I think
cleaned the slate, but then Ham
well,
brought
there's
it
a thing.
back. Go ahead,
everything
guys.
There,
on earth was destroyed in the flood, except for Noah and his family that was on the ark, and all the animals. I
Hmm.
think everything that was on the pre-flood earth was wiped away,
So
washed away completely.
I completely disagree. I think
well,
pyramids and most megalithic structures are pre-flood. I do not think they're post-flood.
can I say something? Maybe Ham had a devious nature, and because in the book of Adam and Eve it says that the descendants of Adam were watching all the evil that was going on, and they were called down off of the mountain where they all lived, and they gathered in. Maybe Ham had seen some of that, but his father stopped him from going and partaking in that, and he still had some of that devious nature in him, seeing all the lust and seeing all the evil that was going on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like yeah, wishing that it didn't go away and he could still do it,
Right, right.
and hoping and
Then
thinking for the
and then
day. Yeah,
and then he succumbed to the evil spirits that were left after the flood,
that
and they
wanted the same
seduced
thing that
him.
he wanted.
Right. Well, you have to have an evil spirit enter you. You have to have a carnal mind, so to say, and you have to have the lust of the flesh. That's what all these witches and warlocks, all these evil people, they have an evil nature in them, and they're seduced by seducing spirits. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, unclean spirits, which are the giants, and that's what I'm saying. I think Ham
Right, right.
was. I have a little, mercy there for him because he would have been inundated by it. Because there is other
Right, right.
scriptures, and I can't remember where it is off the top of my head that Noah literally went to the father and been like, okay, awesome. I don't have to deal with them physically, but now me and my sons and my offspring are have to dealing with them spiritually, and that there was a portion of them that were sealed away as well. So that's I don't really remember exactly where that's from, but I think that that's kind of an interesting thought to know that would kind of be a thing. Or even if that didn't happen, then maybe um, that was kind of the consequence for killing them all. It was like, yeah, we'll kill them all, but then we're gonna have to deal with them spiritually. But yeah, what do y'all think about that?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think Noah and
Go
his
ahead.
family had enough faith that the demons couldn't mess with him. I think that if they would have messed with him before the
Well,
flood and
I don't
everything.
necessarily saying mess with Noah himself, but I'm saying
But
if
something seduced him.
if his sons were being seduced, that would mess with Noah. That I didn't mean
Yeah, yeah,
directly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but something seduced him because obviously he was, banished out from the family and he was sent away because there was, and it was more than just the one incident where he covered his father's nakedness. I remember reading one text that said he had did a couple different things, and Noah or somebody talking about it that Noah had real reservations about him. You know what I mean? I might have heard somebody preaching on it or talking about it.
And I wonder if there's also some element in there of the wives and how we see later in the Hebrews how like it was always the women who seduced the men into, perverting the instructions, you know what I mean, or worshiping new gods or whatever. So I wonder if maybe that also had a part into it. And no, I'm not saying anything against the ladies. I'm talking about this specific wife. Maybe that was an element in it. But yeah, just interesting thoughts there. But I think whatever Ham was into
Also,
is
also one.
basically what Nimrod established as the what we refer to today as mystery religions. But go ahead, Frankie.
There's also a theory that he covered his father's nakedness. That there was a homosexual sex act going on there too. I've heard that theory thrown around too. So he must have had a devious mindset. That's the one thing I'm getting out of this. You know what I mean?
Right, which would have been exactly what the unclean spirits would be looking for because they would want to
Yeah,
be experiencing those things through Ham.
right. And then his descendants, which uh, we know that all his descendants were the Canaanites, the Amorites, all the ones that were against Israel, right? Am I right on that one, Anthony?
Uh, uh, sorry, I was talking with somebody in chat. What about the Israelites?
Well, the Canaanites, the Amorites, and all those ones that were against Israel came from Ham's descendants, right?
Yeah, supposedly, yes.
Okay, yeah. So
There's one in Japheth's line as well. Um, I'm gonna have to look that one up. But yeah, all the ites they came from Ham.
okay, yeah. So, and they were all against Israel, and they all fought. They were the giants in the land when the spies went and looked. Right, it was the Canaanites that were in the promised land, right?
Yes.
Right. So yeah. So there was something definitely wrong with Ham. That's my
My question is how like how now I have heard the story. I have not read it for myself. I have heard the story that Noah had more than one wife and that Ham was the offspring of one of those wives. I've heard that he's had two, and I've heard that he's had three. I don't know for sure. I don't want to like be quoted for that, but I have heard that. But my question is, how did Ham become? How did his bloodline become tainted like that? And that's my question.
That's what I was kind of trying to indicate was I think that with what also Frankie was saying, his kind of devious nature, he was, instead of like, feeling attacked by the unclean spirits, he listened to them and was able to find information and or technology that led him to being able to change their bodies like it was pre-flood. That's my
Right.
thoughts.
If I'm a bad person, that's not going to make my offspring giants.
No, no, that's why I said
Well,
information
well,
and
well,
technology, not
well, it
just
says that
a
the
bad
sins of
person.
the father. Well, it says that the sins of the father are passed down generation to generation to generation. So, if Ham had a sin nature or a devious carnal nature, and then he was influenced by seducing spirits, his sins would be passed down generation to
But
generation
but
to generation.
but
Which,
that wouldn't
right?
but that wouldn't make a giant.
No,
That
no, no.
wouldn't
I'm not
make
saying giants. I'm saying
That's
where the
specifically what he
the
was
evil
asking about
bloodline.
though.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, he was specifically saying like how does being bad having bad behavior make you a giant? And I'm saying I don't think I think the bad behavior was that he listened to the unclean spirits and
Exactly. Yes, I agree
and
with that.
then found information and technology that gave him the ability to change his body to where his offspring were then what would come to be the giants of the time of the, after the 40 years of the Exodus and coming into the land promised. So that's my
There's a
beliefs.
quote in chat saying, "I thought one of the grandsons found some recipes written on something, and that's how the evil started back up again."
I have
I
heard
I
along that.
haven't ever heard of that. That was
Well,
just
that would be the alchemy, maybe, and some
that
of the
that
technology you were talking about.
Exactly, and the reason why I say that is because that accumulated all of that information accumulated in Nimrod's hand, where he was able to do something that no one else was able to do in blasphemy against the Father. Like he did something to himself that is described differently than just being a big dude. So I
Well,
think
maybe he did find some evil spells or cantations or some type of alchemy.
Maybe
Uh,
him. Maybe he had it with him. Jubilees 8:1.
maybe Ham had it with him. Oh, that's a good thought, Anthony. And that's why his father cast him out, because that was evil unto them. And he was holding it and hoarding it. Maybe his father found that, and that's why he cast him out. That's a good point.
Oh, I gotta look up a verse right quick, y'all.
What do you think about that, Vader? Maybe he had some of the technology on the ark with him, some of the alchemy, some of the spells, some of the written writings of the evil Nephilim, of
yeah,
the Nephilim, or
like maybe
Nephilim, or the fallen angels, that the
uh-huh.
technology that they gave man.
Yeah,
Maybe he had some of it. Maybe he had some of it stashed in the ark,
that's totally true, and I could
and
see him
his
being
brothers could have ratted him out. His brothers could have ratted him out because you know how siblings are. Uh, and when Noah found out about it, that's when he cast him out.
yeah, no,
That makes that makes a lot of sense, bro.
totally, yeah, I totally see that as well. That is good. Let's go ahead and just read though, and just get the rest through
But
this, and we're almost done.
wait a bear, I got. I appreciate Kingdom in Context here pointed this out to me. I wanted to read this from Jubilees, chapter 8:1-4. It says, "Forgive me if I get these names wrong because they're not written in English." Uh, it says in the 29th Jubilee in the first week, in the beginning thereof, Arpachshad took to himself a woman, and her name was Rasuye, the daughter of Shushan, the daughter of Elam, and she bore him a son in the third year. in this week, and he called his name Canaan. And the son grew, and his father taught him writing, and he went to seek for himself a place where he might seize for himself a city. And he found a writing which former generations had carved on the rock, and he read what was thereon, and he transcribed it, and sinned owing to it, for it contained the teaching of the watchers, in accordance with which they used to observe the omens of the sun and moon and stars and all the signs of heaven. And he wrote it down and said nothing regarding it, for he was afraid to speak to Noah about it, lest he should be angry with him on account of it. I do appreciate that, Brother Sean. I hadn't got that far in Jubilees. I thank you for pointing that out to us. But that's kind of what we was talking about right there, wasn't it?
Yeah, who? What song was that? Was that Ham that he was talking about?
Uh, yeah. Let's see. And she bore whoever the daughter of Elam is. No, that'd be his name was Canaan. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe he could answer that. It doesn't actually
Well,
say.
it refers to Noah, so it had to be one of his sons. It probably was Ham. And who gave? Where was Sean in the chat? Is Sean in the chat?
Yeah, he's over at Take on the World.
Oh, he's in the Take on the World chat.
Oh,
I'm on
nice. Welcome, Sean.
Enclosed Cosmology. Cool. Thank you, Sean. Awesome.
But yeah, let's go ahead and continue reading in Genesis 8. And so it says, um, and God remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. Assuaged. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of the heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven were restrained. All the other waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. The ark rested in the 7th month of the 17th day of the month upon the mountain of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. And it came to pass at the end of the 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made, and sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro until the waters dried up off the earth. Also he sent a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the ground. But the dove found no rest from the sole of her foot, and she returned unto the ark, into him into the ark. For the waters of the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand and took her and pulled unto her in unto him into the ark. And he stayed yet uh, and he stayed yet other 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came in to him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed yet, I think it's supposed to be, but yeah, it's other 7 days, and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him any more. And it came to pass in the 600th and first year, in the 1st month, in the first day of the month, the waters were dried up off the face of the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the earth, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. And in the 2nd month of the 7th and 20th day of the month, the earth was dried. And God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth from the ark, thou and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee of all flesh, both fowl and cattle, and every creeping thing upon the earth, and that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went forth, and his sons, and his wives, and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, every fowl, whatever soever creepeth upon the earth, after their kinds, went forth out of the ark. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took out every clean beast, and every clean fowl, and every burnt offering on the altar. And I've been reading this and not had this for y'all this whole time. I'm so sorry. I'm almost done too. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took out every clean beast and every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from their youth, neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. What a beautiful promise there, right? Like I always feel like he ends it in that way. Um, when all this crazy stuff has happened. But that was a little long there, but I appreciate you all for just listening as I stumble along through that. But anyways, some kind of interesting things there to me that I kind of want to point out real quick. Let's see here.
One thing I'd like to mention,
Go ahead.
Sean was saying that was, uh, at least if I'm reading this correctly, it's saying that Canaan was from Shem,
Shim's line, not Ham's line.
right? Not Ham. So
Hmm.
I, I'm missing that. Apparently, I haven't gotten that far in the Book of Jubilees yet. I just always thought it was from the bloodline of Ham, though. So
Interesting.
maybe I'm wrong about that, but
Yeah, well,
So
we're
he's saying
definitely
that
getting into that. Go
he's
ahead.
saying that the Canaanites came from Shams.
if I'm reading that right now, it,
Why don't you have him come on, Anthony? Uh, Sean, if you're out there and you can hear us, come on in Discord and
he said
share
he's
that with us.
in the mountains right now.
Oh, he's
Sir,
in the mountains. All right. Well, we'd love to have you on in a future episode, brother, if
Yeah,
you can make it.
all of us would love that.
Yes, yes.
we're all
that's
We're all
the
big fans.
little
like we're all followers of not only Austin but Sean too, and it's kind of cool that when he went on Common Ground because it was like two of my favorite people, three, and Wes, three of my favorite people all talking. So definitely cool. Would love to have Sean on sometime. So, um,
Yeah,
but
that would
yeah,
be
so
awesome.
we read through the rest of Genesis, Genesis 7
okay.
and Genesis 8. Now I feel like going into 9 is going to be a little bit too much, but uh, let's kind of talk about it. So we know like basically from this point forward, like it's all gonna move as spread it on. Now I really wanted to pull this up. So in the fear of you shall dread. This is Genesis 9:2, and it says, "And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and every fowl in the earth, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. In your hand, into your hands they are delivered." So I think about how right. So they have a dread upon them. They're coming out of the ark, and now they're moving out. Right. So it's not like it was before where they're like, hey, let's be around these people because they're gonna make fire and stuff. Like they just go straight out into the back into the wilderness, and I kind of want to bring that up to like an evolution uh, rebuttal is so this always made sense to me way more than evolution when they try to explain to me that literally nothing, eventually became a one cell, multi-cell, and then all the way up to, you know, living, breathing, thinking, feeling spiritual humans. But anyways, I digress. So with the animals, we have like specifically from Charles Darwin's writing, he specifically calls out like the sparrows and starks and different types of birds, and it's like I think it's way more simple than they try to explain because, like, for instance, they're like, oh, if you have a yellow snake, a brown snake, and a green snake in a forest, which ones do you think are going to survive? And they're like, obviously, the brown snakes and the green snakes. The yellow ones, they're going to die, right? But
Or,
why would yellow snakes be in a forest? They wouldn't go there. You get what I mean? Do you get like what my point is it's like they try to explain animals and the this all the different ones is like, oh, what he had every single one of those on the ark, and it's like, no, well, okay, like for the birds, right? Like he had the songbirds. They went out and they went, X far away from Noah and his camp, and they created a nest. And then those birds were hatched and born, and they flew away from their nest, and it just kept going. And some of the birds that would go into the fields, right? Would go to the fields. Well, they would stay there because their beak or their whatever was the best for that area, and the ones that stayed there would breed with the ones that stayed there because they could get food. I don't know. I don't see a bird
Uh,
that lives
I
in a
just, I,
forest staying in a forest if it can't find any food. It's gonna go to the desert, and then all of a sudden, if it finds luck with living in the desert, it's gonna stay there, right? I don't know.
yeah, Vader. I don't think there was that many different species at the time. I think we
Yeah, that's
have
and that's
way
my
more.
point. Like
I think
as
we
it
have. Yeah,
spread
I think we
out.
have way more species. I think we have way more species now because of the 1,000 or so years that have passed,
Mhm.
and every animal has
Had time.
evolved. It had time to evolve in their different environments and crossbreed and have different breeds of each animal. I mean, I think there's like 300 and some different species of dogs, but there probably wasn't back then. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, for
from
sure. I'm not saying that. What my point is as they spread out, that's
Right.
where
They
you get the
multiply
distinction. They multiplied and they changed as they were
and they
in these
adapt.
new environments. Exactly. There was no
Right. Yeah.
evolution. It was just
Nah.
a thing that happened naturally as things progress and
Well,
spread and apply.
that's called
adapting is a natural course of creation.
Yeah, and I
We
feel like
but we
scientists
can
snags
adapt.
that word and it ties it to evolution, which
Well,
evolution
we
is
can
things
just can,
changing
humans
kinds.
can adapt. Humans can adapt to their environment.
that.
Like Eskimos, they have a thicker skin because they're in a
But
colder environment.
do you think
You
that
know what I mean?
do you think that that has to do with their environment and what they eat, like their terrain, or with their, like I'm not saying it can't be also within their genetics, but what my question is, do you think that humans are like they're classified as Homo sapiens? Do you think we are
I
an
think your
animal?
I think your genes and your DNA can change to the environment because DNA is living, and it you can literally change your DNA through through the way
Epigenetics.
you think, yeah, through genetics,
We
through,
move
and
forward.
that's what they're trying to do with the jab, change our DNA
Yeah, they're trying to
to
do it
make it corrupt,
spiritually for sure, 100%.
and spiritually and physically, to make us sick, to make us vulnerable, to make us,
Yeah,
more feeble
yeah,
instead of,
and
you know
not
what
to
I mean?
get into that, yeah, for sure, not to get into
Right,
that
right,
too far, but yeah,
right. No,
exactly. That they're definitely, that's definitely a card on, in their hand that they're willing to play and play. So, but anyways, so yeah, I think that was specifically with animals, like that's a lie that they try to sell us, seeing how beautiful the Father's creation is, right? And then they say, no, this is all random. Like, it's just beautiful to you because it's a subjective thing, right? Like we can't look at
Sure.
creation as a beautiful thing. Like I've never got that. I've never got how people
Well,
on
Then
that
why
side of it that don't
is
believe in
evolution?
the Father look at creation and be like, "Oh, it's so beautiful." What do you mean it's so beautiful? It's just random chunks of matter.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, God created us to adapt to every environment. I mean, we Yah created us in His image, and He's given us the ability to create and to adapt. I mean, if you're living in a colder or a hotter environment, you're going to adapt to it. You're going to become strong.
I will
you're
tell
going to
you
find
this,
ways
brother.
to eat.
I've been living in the cold, and the only way that I can adapt to that is by starting a fire or putting on a jacket or getting under some covers. If my
All right.
body
Well,
really adapted physically, then I would
I'm
start
not.
growing longer hair in the winter and shed
I'm
it.
not.
You know what I mean?
I'm not saying you, but over time, your species could adapt. Your offspring could adapt to that environment. It would be tough the first couple generations, but after generation of living in a cold or hot environment, your body will adapt to it. Look at the
I know.
Africans. They
I
have
definite.
darker pigment skin because they're in the heat, and their skin has adapted to that. You know what I mean?
But
And
that's
and and
but
it's
then
not
if you
evolution; it's just the way that the Father created us to adapt to be able to conquer, to be able to multiply, to keep our race going. You know what I mean?
okay,
To keep creating
but only
going.
the only kind of rebuttal to that would be to say if you take someone from Central Africa and you put them in Montana, if they keep having children within their family, they're not all going to start suddenly, eventually being lighter skinned because they no longer need the sun anymore. Or they no longer have the sun as much anymore. So I think there are physical changes, but I think it's like I think that it's first a spiritual thing and then that manifests physically. That
That's
that's
true. Yeah, you're
that's
right.
that's how I kind of see it. So I think it's what these people are doing and thinking and feeling and in their lives that is causing I think a lot of the things that happen in people's lives. And it's like people people there's other other religions and ways of philosophies and
Well,
whatever to try to
make it
explain it, but my point is that we
make it like
all
this,
know.
Vader. Vader, look at someone that lives in the woods or is a countryman. Their hands are going to be rougher than somebody that's grown up in the city because they work harder. They
because they
use
don't
their
put
hands
because they
more.
don't put lotion on their hands at night.
Well, their hands will adapt to the hard work that they do in the country living. Where in the city, you don't really go out and chop wood. You're not doing the things that you need to do. You're not tending the animals. You're not farming. You're not using utensils. You're living in the city where you can just go to the store and buy something, and your hands don't have the calluses like
Oh, for
somebody
sure.
that like would be a farmer or grow up in the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I
if your
I gotta
hands
show
can
you. I
adapt,
gotta show you my computer gaming callus. So no, I totally get you, bro. I'm not. I'm not.
I got one of them too, bro. I got one of them too. So yeah.
Well,
I'm
look,
not.
in 1950, Admiral Byrd went and explored Antarctica in a fur coat. And do you think anybody that's alive today is willing to go down there with a fur coat? No, they got all these different suits and stuff they wear nowadays.
Oh yeah, because I think that's a lot of fear porn personally, but
Possibly so. But
yeah.
what I'm getting at is people are weaker today than what they were 50, 60 years ago, for sure. Uh, our technology has made us weak. You know, air conditioning and game station. computers and stuff like that, it's made us weak.
Exactly. It's made us
Weak.
weaker. It's made us more feeble.
Weaker in the essence of like fighting back, right? Like what I
Look,
mean,
Just
somebody that lives off the land.
meaning it would be a lot harder for us if the food stopped being shipped to the grocery stores to survive, as opposed to someone who's always had issues getting food daily, like like a normal like person on the street that doesn't have a house and like has to beg for his food. Like he's already used to that feeling. So is he better off because you know what I mean? So all I'm saying is I think you could see it both ways. Like okay, something's coming. Let's get super strong and buff so that I'm a warrior when it comes. But then you don't have food, and then you're
But
so
look at Darrell Lee. Darrell
let
Lee lives up in Alaska. I guarantee you, his hands are a lot rougher than both of ours, and he's probably built up a resistance to the environment, and his immune system is probably stronger to fight off all these uh, colds, infections, because he's living in a more rugged environment. You know what I mean?
by the way, Shabbat Shalom to you, Daryl.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, Darrell.
Shabbat shalom, y'all.
I mean,
Yeah,
Darrell, you can expound on that. You have a harder, I mean, you can't just walk down the street to a store and grab a soda and a bag of chips. You actually have to go out and fight for your food or grow your food or struggle. You know what I mean. I'm not.
yeah, we all have to adapt to our environments. I mean, and
Yeah,
y'all were talking
sorry to
about
interrupt
this
you. I
a
think
little bit
Sean's
ago.
trying to jump on in Discord.
Oh, cool.
Someone
Is he
said
coming
he
in on this?
came on. Give me a second. I'm looking here.
All right. See if he's in the general.
Maybe he can unravel
Yeah,
my
here we
brain.
go.
I see what's done happened. It's a different
I
Canaan. They was
got him.
You
yeah.
got him. Bring him in. Bring him in,
Uh,
baby.
yeah. Sean. You want to give him uh,
Give him a mod status,
yeah,
Anthony.
yeah, so that he can.
Okay, I gotta get over there.
Yeah, bring the big guy in. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. But what I wanted to say about Daryl is I think that he spiritually is sound. Like I think that Daryl has a great immune system, and yes, he has calluses on his hand and stuff, but I think the reason why he is in good health and in good life is because he's spiritually sound. He's spiritually seeking after the Father. So
Exactly. Well,
the world itself, like I really like that Sean brought it up, was it relaxes around you. It's not like trying to get you. Whereas if you were being disobedient to the Father, those things and spiritually what that puts out into the world is literally the antithesis of what you're supposed to put out, and so it's almost like your balance goes into the negative, and it seeks to do that balance. But Sean, you should now be able to see the ECF live stream channel. We're all in here. You can just click in there and join us up and join with us.
Well, I think I see.
I mean, spiritually, it does make a big difference. I mean, being connected to the Father and having a relationship with Him. I think actually basic living does give you a more sense because you're in a beautiful environment and where you do connect with the Father's creation and His creative power. You know what I mean? Be like those people that go off road. They go what do they call that? Where they don't have any technology, they go live in they get a piece of land, they build their own house on it. They're more spiritually connected to the Father because of their surroundings. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense, Vader? Off grid. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sorry,
So
I'm just
Yeah,
responding to
yeah,
some.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, like people that go off grid, they're more connected to the Father because they're connecting to the creation itself. You know what I mean? They're living off the land. They're growing their own food. They're yeah, the Amish. Wendy put that up. Yeah, the
yeah,
Amish. That,
and
that
you go look at
it's a
somebody that lives.
cleaner way of living. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but like you go look at somebody that goes to the gym and lifts weights all the time. Sure, they got big muscles or something like that, but most of them that I know can barely lift one end of a couch. You know,
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's all for show. I mean, yeah, they're still city folk, man. They're still living in their environment. I mean, like Daryl and you, Anthony, living in your environment. You're in Mississippi. It's you don't you're not in a big city. You know what I mean? A big city life. It really it makes you lazy
it
because
does.
everything's so convenient, dude. I can walk down the street, get a pizza and a cheesesteak, literally 3 minutes from my house. I can go over and get Chinese food another 2 minutes
Oh
from
yeah,
my.
no,
You know what?
I totally get you. The
And,
convenience is
oh
different.
yeah, the convenience makes you really lazy and vulnerable to all these attacks of the special boys.
Yeah,
Put it
and
that way.
and I'll just say this: where they're gonna succeed, they're gonna succeed. They're never fully gonna succeed because they they can kill our bodies, but they can't kill our like they can't kill what the Father created. So I'm not worried about that. Like I'm gonna defend myself if they do so to the best of my ability, but I also don't want to come into the mindset of a warrior, getting ready to fight. Like I don't want to ever go up to someone, you know, already having it in my mind that I'm gonna fight them. I'd rather die. Like I'd rather defend myself, but I'd rather die than just straight up murder someone and be like, I don't,
Yo, somebody's hold on, Vader. Somebody's in general. Can we pull him in here? Brill. I think that might be Sean.
Mm,
Brill Zoeth. Is that
no,
Sean?
that's April. She's trying to get Sean to go into the general to figure out his mic. He said something about his mic's not working.
Oh, okay.
Something.
Oh, okay, cool.
Nothing prompting him for mic permission. I don't know exactly what that means, but
Did you make him a mod? Did you give him status to get in here?
yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Um, yeah. I don't even like to even talk about evolution and stuff like that because I mean I know for a fact it doesn't exist.
No, it's not evolution. It's just, they're twisting the ability to adapt to environment and calling it evolution. They're definitely twisting that. It's not evolution. It's God's gift to us that we can adapt. He's made us to be more than conquerors. You know what I mean?
What I'm trying to say is I do like the adaptation part.
Yes. Yeah.
If we look at people that live near the equator, that they pretty much have summer year round. Their skin's darker.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Yes, exactly.
Sure, it's probably hot to them, but if we go down there, oh my gosh, we're gonna die.
Yeah. Oh my God, our skin we would be red. Like we would have to definitely sunscreen up.
Yeah, I mean, I remember several years ago.
I don't use sunscreen, man. I think that's what gives people. I think that's what gives people sun cancer.
Oh,
I remember years ago it got 85 degrees in Chicago, and people were dropping dead of heat strokes, like 100.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because they're not used to it.
My goodness!
Well, and they also don't have air conditioning, right? So you wouldn't typically spend your time inside of a hot box. You would go inside, go to the lake, etc. Yeah.
Well, they're used to a colder environment, so when it gets down to like 5 degrees, it's nothing to them. That doesn't even bother them because they're used to them cold, brutal winters that they have out there in Chicago,
Why
Green
would
Bay.
you think
I mean,
animals do
I,
anything
I
different?
remember the one Green Bay game. They said it was like -7 degrees, and they were playing a football game in it. You know what I mean? Uh,
So
in
why
Green Bay.
so why would we think animals do anything different than what we do? That's what I was trying to.
Exactly. I
I
totally.
I don't know. I agree. I disagree. I don't think humans and animals are the same though. I think we're two completely separate creations. I don't like how scientists calls us Homo sapiens as example.
I believe that too. I don't consider myself an animal. We're not animals. We name the animals. Adam and Eve, or Adam and Eve.
Exactly.
Now,
We're
as far
created in God's
as
image.
adapting to different climates and different terrains and stuff like that, if we can do it, why couldn't the animals do it? You see what I'm
Oh,
saying?
exactly. They definitely can.
They didn't or anything like that, but we definitely know
Well,
that
that's why some dogs have more hair than others because of their environment. Like
But
the
they
dogs in
but they
Scotland
but
and
they breed them to be that way, right? They find dogs that have long hair and they keep breeding those to keep getting long hair.
well, now they probably have to do that, but when after the flood though, it probably happened naturally. You know, I mean, where an animal would adapt to its
Oh,
environment.
obviously, look at wolves compared to
Yeah, exactly.
dingoes
And wolves are
compared to what are those called?
wolves are a form of a dog.
African
We got
African wild dogs. I think that's what they're called. What you know what I'm talking about? The like paint colored dogs in Africa. What are they called? I cannot remember. If anyone will help me.
Shabbat Shalom, Sean. Welcome to the show.
Oh, awesome! He got in here.
Hey guys,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up, brother?
Hey, I'm okay. How you guys doing tonight?
Oh, we're
Good.
doing
How you
awesome.
doing?
Cool.
Glad you
Sorry.
could join us.
Yeah, I'm
Pull up
glad
a
I
chair to the table.
Thanks, guys. If I cut out, it's because I'm driving through mountains, but we'll see how long this lasts.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
Are you where are you going? If you don't mind me asking, just on some personal errands, or are you going to Oktoberfest or something?
No, I'm just running personal errands tonight after Shabbat,
Nice,
and then going back home. But where I live is like in the valley of mountains, so I
nice.
gotta drive out over one pass or another trying to get to the house.
Hey, that's a good place to be. If it's a hard place to get from, it's a hard place to get to. You know what I mean? I definitely can respect that.
Yeah, it's all good until the snow hits.
Oh yeah, I live right up on the Ochre Mountains, like right up on the foothills of it, and like last year one time it dumped almost 4 feet on us. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was not. And
Yeah, so
my wife doesn't do any of the shoveling. I do all of it. So and I live on a corner house, so I got this long sidewalk to do. But anyways,
yeah, so we were talking about how Ham uh was cast out of Noah's family. There
Yeah.
was something that came up in the chat that you said that he wasn't it was Shem that was the descendants of the Canaanites.
No, I was saying that Jubilees chapter 8, it mentions a guy named Kenan, which is the Greek transliteration from R.H. Charles translating the book of Jubilees. But that guy Kenan in the genealogy listed in Jubilees chapter 8 is also found in the Septuagint in Genesis chapter 10. He's in the bloodline. He's the father or grandfather of Selah in the bloodline of Shem. And he's also mentioned in the genealogy in Luke chapter 3.
Oh,
So, but he's been taken out of the Masoretic text, and that's pretty sus in my opinion. But this guy supposedly found the writings of the Watchers after the flood and started practicing those things, and why those things are more than just looking at the stars and adoring them, but it's worshiping them, and that context throughout all the Old Testament,
shoot.
as the Watchers taught them in the Book of Enoch, describes that they taught them through idolatry. So that means that they were worshiping physical idols fashioned after the Nephilim, after the giants, the sons of the Watchers. So this is where it seems cryptic, it seems vague, but Jubilees chapter 8, 1 through 4 is directly telling you, if when you understand the full definition of what it meant to worship the sun, moon, and stars, as Deuteronomy 4:19 expounds upon, then you know that they picked up idolatrous worship once again, and it was directly from the teachings of the Watchers, and that involved worshiping the unclean spirit as gods and adopting all of their behaviors, all of their ways. And part of that behavior has always been pharmakia, which is genetic manipulation.
So it would be a form of alchemy then. Alchemy is pharmakia too, right?
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
All right. And is there a possibility that Ham could have brought some of them writings on the boat,
Well,
and
it
that's
says,
why he got cast out of the family?
well, the text says that Keenan found them written on a rock after the flood.
Okay.
See,
So,
and I was kind of saying earlier that I was thinking that because of all of the Nephilim, all the giants dying off and their unclean spirits just being here, that maybe Ham was seduced by them, or at least led by them to those writings, to information and technology that led him to more, or it was everything he needed right there in one place. I don't know.
oh yeah, for sure. Because Jubilees chapter 10, verses 1 through 10, that's the conversation you were trying to remember earlier with Noah praying to God, saying, "Hey, these unclean spirits that were the sons of the Watchers, they're now unclean spirits, and they're now tormenting my sons and grandsons, and leading them into error and wickedness and lawlessness." And so he's praying for help against them. But in Jubilees chapter 8, verse 4, it says that Canaan, he didn't tell Noah what he found because, he knew Noah would be pissed off. He knew Noah didn't want them practicing that stuff again. That's what led to the flood. So he didn't tell Noah what he found, but instead he just started practicing it, started trying to do it, whatever he found. And I'm sure it was much more than just saying, look at the stars and worship them. I'm sure there was pretty detailed writings for instructing lawlessness, instructing idolatry.
And that was
Totally.
and that was Ham that was doing that.
No, that was a guy named Keenan. Keenan.
Oh, Keenan. Okay, that was Keenan doing it. Okay.
Yeah, he's also called Canaan in the Septuagint translation in Genesis 10, in the genealogy of Shem, right before Selah. So Ham in Jubilees chapter 7, it says that he already had his son Canaan by the time he did what he did to Noah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
According to Jubilees, there's no possible way that Canaan raped his mother, or that Ham raped his mother, and Canaan was the offspring as a result of that. I know that that's a popular theory, but if we're taking Jubilees into account, then Jubilees disqualifies that theory.
Yeah, I definitely need to read Jubilees, because what's kind of interesting, and one of the reasons why I love your work is like totally Rob Skiba too, is like just reading through the scripture, it was like I was coming to some conclusions, but I didn't really have any evidence for them. And then I'd look online, and I found Rob Skiba and what was his name, Chuck Missler, a long time ago. And then, but more recently with like Torah and enclosed cosmology and all of that stuff, like you're tying those things together where they tied other things together for me, and going through the research, and then you showing like, boom, this is exactly what it's saying. It's like it's been definitely been a blessing to everyone that I know, anyone in our Discord channel. Like we always share your stuff and talk about your stuff, so it's super cool that you joined us. So, and you always take my call.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
Sean.
here, bro. You
There's a
got your own channel.
So, Sean, what do you think Sham got kicked out of the camp for then? I mean, Ham.
I believe he did. Yeah, I believe it is just directly what it says. He basically dishonored his father by making fun of seeing his father drunk and naked and not being appropriate and covering up, which is Torah. You can't dishonor your father. And this is where Japheth and Shem, they did honor him by walking backwards and covering up Noah. So this was them doing Torah, whereas Ham did not. That's why Ham, if in the story in the account in Jubilees, it says that after Noah reprimanded Ham, and in that reprimand, he says, "Cursed be Canaan; he'll be a servant to Shem." Well, it's inferred, and I want to be very transparent about this, but it's inferred that the judgment against Canaan, or that prophecy, if you will, against Canaan, was because was already showing that he was not doing the ways of Torah that Noah had taught him. So this is all within the context of Jubilees chapter 7. And in verse 20 of Jubilees chapter 7, before the Ham story, Noah is teaching his sons, it says specifically enjoining his sons, which means to fervently command and instruct with urgency. He's teaching his sons and grandsons the commandments, to love your neighbor, to honor your father and mother, to love the Lord your God, and love, all these, the ones that he knew. And then 2 verses down is the Ham story, which is he's not honoring his father and mother. He doesn't have a heart for Torah. So therefore his children will not be taught Torah, which is why he can't take the reprimand and he leaves the family and moves out and starts his own clan. So this is par for the course with his irreverent non-Torah behavior to begin with. And so this is why then later Canaan in chapter 8 and chapter 9, Ham's son, he takes through theft, through sedition, he takes the land that was given as inheritance to Shem, which is why in the modern canon it's always referred to as the Canaanites, the land of Canaan. It was supposed to be the land of Shem, but Canaan stole it. In Jubilees chapter 8, I believe, or chapter 9, Noah gives Canaan his own portion of land in southwest Africa, where like Namibia is on the Atlantic western coast of Africa. Like he gave him this huge portion of land, but Canaan said he didn't want it. He wanted the land that he stole from Shem.
Quick question, right quick. You mentioned the western side of Africa. Isn't that where Tommy was pointing out where Atlantis is supposed to be or used to be?
Yeah, I've heard. Was it not Herodotus, the Greek historian, I think, or not, the Egyptian? One of the great ancient historians used to claim that Atlantis was off the coast it would be more close to the coast of like Tripoli, like northwest Africa.
Okay.
So basically, like if you left the Mediterranean Sea and then went out towards the west that way, you would have run into Atlantis. If it truly was where it was described in the ancient texts, which was now it's sunken and under the sea, but.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic in and itself. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that breakdown there. Do you think, kind of like leading up to what we're talking about, do you think then that through Cayman that was like the start of the mystery religion that basically would then be inherited by the man of many names?
Yeah, because yes and no. It definitely amplified it, and it's right around that same time. If you like line up the genealogies of Genesis 10, and it's right around that time. Whereas Canaan in Jubilees chapter 8 verse 1, he then goes down, and I think he becomes the grandfather or the great grandfather of the guy Eber, and then Eber marries. Great.
I think one of
So,
the mountains got you.
So guys, I know the general theory. I've heard it, all my life. I thought the theory was, that Ham's bloodline was tainted. He came on the guy right before he got on the boat. Maybe she was Nephilim and they didn't know it. Like I went through all the scenarios myself, but when I started reading Jubilees, they made it crystal clear. It's just they learned there's a difference in pre-flood Nephilim and post-flood Nephilim.
Yeah.
What is the difference? What is the difference, Sean?
Did you guys catch that?
No.
It's going in and out a little bit, Sean. But
All right, sorry. So
No, it's all good.
real quick, the pre-flood Nephilim is the causation is direct descendancy of a rebellious angel taking a woman and impregnating her. And then that was the pre-flood Nephilim. The post-flood Nephilim is a result of genetic manipulation, which was also a practice of how they created them before the flood, except there weren't angels involved. It was just that knowledge was passed on. So I cover this in my Investigating Babylon series, part 3, where I break down the difference and I even go over the genetic science of the different growth hormones that you can ingest into a woman during gestation that affects the growth of the baby. And this is what First Enoch chapter 7, I think it's verse 2 or 3, that's what it says, that the angels, they taught mankind how to be acquainted with roots.
We got to the
So when you look up,
made them acquainted to roots. Do you think that's all it was just the chemicals in the roots? I guess that like they made like an alchemic potion to make themselves bigger?
the size is only one facet from my understanding of the Nephilim. The pre-flood Nephilim are a unclean spirit. So an unclean spirit is different than a regular man. So this is what Enoch explains in chapter 10, that they were created to destroy mankind, to oppress, to attack, to do wickedness. They weren't just normal born babies that grew big. They had a different ontology. They had a different chemical makeup, like the angels. That's why angels are called spirits, but men are called are considered. They were called spirits before the flood. The giants that we see in the land of Canaan after the flood are just regular men born through genetic manipulation made bigger. So that's why the unclean spirit. But does that make any sense?
So
It was
do you
breaking up a
think,
little bit, but we did get some of
I
it.
got a question for you. The pre-flood Nephilim, do you think that they had special powers like the X-Men? Because they did have angelic DNA in them. Do you think that they had
See
like
any writings about it? I try to
power?
stick with the text. I mean, they clearly have the ability to do stuff even without a body, to manipulate matter, to move stuff, to affect people's thought process, to cause sickness. They clearly have extra normal abilities, even just in spiritual shade form, which that's what Deuteronomy 32 calls them, the shades. So when they did have a body, did they still have those abilities? I don't know.
So
And this is why, as an unclean spirit, they're constantly seeking to possess people because they don't have a body. They can't just have a normal human body. They didn't have a normal human body to begin with.
right.
Yeah, they were.
So do you think
I
now
don't know
in
if you
our
guys
time,
lost it.
do you think in our time they're trying to re-simulate that through AI merging with humans through uh, steroid shots, all these alchemy pharmaceutical shots to make people bigger, stronger, or to create like a superhuman race?
Well, yes, you mentioned 3 different concepts, though. So yes, they do want to bring back the giants, in my understanding, in my opinion. They also want to make, through the pharmakia, they want to make the average person more susceptible to full-on possession through chemicals, which is what the ancient rituals of the temples to Baal were doing back in the day. Like that was part of their practice.
And then they were
Drug
and
use
then
and
they were
alcohol and
adding
different.
in the immoral behavior as well, the other parts of it.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So here's the thing, guys. They don't need to make people more possessible. They've accomplished great things throughout the earth by taking over the kings of the earth and already possessing people to influence them to do their will. They're looking for a body again. They need a body, and that's what I think the transhumanism movement is truly leading to. This is
Yes,
what
yes.
I think is Revelation 9. These things that come out of the pit with the polyon, these are the genetically engineered humanoid hybrid style bodies that these unclean spirits can actually inhabit, and the body doesn't reject it. With a normal human, the body develops sickness and rejects it, or it develops psychosis. You either die or you go crazy, and you're not effective if that happens. They can't. There's no. It's not a good host body if that happens. So I think through transhumanism, they're trying to get to the place where they can actually have a body that will sustain them so they can get back in the game. And this is why I think Second Baruch chapter 27, in listing off the 10 different plagues that befall mankind leading up to the return of Messiah, says one of the plagues is the attacks of the Shadim, which is the attacks of the spirits. And this is what happens in Revelation 9, 42 months before Yeshua shows up. These things come back out of the ground, and they have a sustainable body, and they're running around doing the will of Apollyon and the first and second beast.
That's exactly what I thought. Like that they were, and that's what maybe because all the warring things that was happening during pre-flood time, that the like the Watchers also, as it says in Enoch, they started sinning against the birds and the beasts and everything else, so that they were trying to create a vassal for their dear sons to inhabit so they could still be on the earth even though they had died.
Yeah. This is, in
Well,
my understanding, this is what it's always been about, is trying to get, they worship the unclean spirit, or the nations, mankind who doesn't follow the creator. They end up, they're seduced by the demons, which are the unclean spirits, and they not only make idols to them, but they also do rituals in order to get them into interaction with their life and their political decisions and their militaries. And as a result of this, they've been trying to create genetic mixtures. This is where we had the chimeras of the ancient cultures, in order for these things to actually inhabit and be actually a visible, tangible, quote unquote, God on the earth that interacts with mankind again, like they were before the flood. So it's crazy. Like, we read Enoch and Jubilees, and we see that the Almighty tells these guys, you're punished, you're judged. These are the spirits from before the flood. They don't have their bodies now. Now there is unclean spirits, and 9/10 of them get judged, sent to the pit. 1/10 of them are left under the control of Satan on the earth. And then you're like, okay, do you think they're just going to behave? Do you think the other 9/10 are not going to try to actually get out? Like, this has been their mission the whole time. They don't want to. They're forced to follow the instructions of the Creator. But this is why the angel in Revelation 9:1 actually has to come down and open the pit, and then they can come out again. So when they do, they want to be ready to actually have a body to interact on the earth again. So this is my understanding. It's okay if people disagree with me, if this is where our research is led.
No, I'm
well,
kind of along those same things, that same line. I did want to bring something up real quick, but go ahead, Frankie. I'm pulling it
go
up
on.
here.
There's a Star Trek episode from the original series where they go to a planet. Hold on, where they go to a planet, and there's these beings in these orbs, and they end up inhabiting Spock, Kirk's body, and one of the females, and they try to build a robot that they can inhabit, but they like being in their bodies better. And I think that is a Hollywood telling us what these entities really want to do. You know what I mean? I forget the name of the episode. I have to look that up.
Well, I can summarize that episode for you, and I did a couple weeks ago in my Investigating Babylon series.
Inhabiting
And it's part
Kirk's
17.
body, and
it's called
one
The
of
Image of the Beast, and I show throughout history how they have robots. They had automatons,
build a robot
and
that
that Zeus, who is the
but they
character of
like
Satan to
being
the
in
Hebrews,
their
he
bodies
had his own
better.
automatons,
And I
and
think
specifically
that is
one that
a
he called
Hollywood
Talos.
telling us
That means
what
Talon,
these
and it guarded one of the Greek islands of the gods. And so it was powered by a form of AI, which a lot of people suspect it's not really AI; it's just an actual unclean spirit. But it wasn't efficient. It wasn't efficient, so they didn't keep that up, and it was, people would fight on it, and eventually it was destroyed because it is just a robot. So that's why I think you see the chimeric structures that you do being described in Revelation 9, 1 through 11. They're going back to that chimeric form instead of pure robotics. It's a mixture of robot and flesh. It's more like an android form.
Have you seen those things that they're like gonna be shipping around or making in a whole bunch of different states or whatever? The big robots that like move and stuff. Those are pretty weird.
Yeah, the moving statue, that very reminiscent of the big 90-foot golden statue in Daniel.
Uh-huh.
Do you
Right.
think that the clone would be like a? Do you think that would be a past tense?
You're breaking up, Anthony.
AI, or do you think the AI would be like
Anthony,
a
if you can hear us, you need to repeat the question.
past tense to the cloning? Uh, yeah, would AI be like a past tense of cloning or vice versa? Uh, they have the ability to clone people now. Could that be a vessel for certain spirits as well, or did that not work out for them? Or
Yeah, I honestly don't know as far as human cloning and whether or not that's a soul that God creates the spark of life into, or if it's the forces of the enemy that's doing that. I honestly don't know. I know some other people have done a lot of research into human cloning and all the ins and outs, and I've seen a lot of that research. I just can't verify any of it. That's the part. It sounds like so much conjecture. I really struggle. That's why you never hear me talk about it that much.
Well,
I do understand that
right,
transhumanism, it's a part of their agenda, is to clone humanity. But as far as, is that clone an actual person? Does it share? Are we talking like cloned as in just taking the genetic material and put it in an embryo that's like a incubator style embryo that's a machine embryo and not an actual womb of a woman and creating a baby? Or are you talking about cloning someone that's fully human, that's already a grown 30-year-old dude, and cloning that genetic DNA and putting it into another body that's waiting to receive all that information? I don't know. I don't know if they've truly achieved that type of human cloning or not. I know there's a lot of theories on it. I just have trouble verifying it through research.
when it comes specifically to cloning, that has always been my point of contention, is that divine spark. Like, are
Yeah,
you saying that divine spark is not happening and they're just making a meat sack that they're somehow able to transfer in their consciousness? Or are you
yeah, I
saying
think
that,
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. That they're soulless
but how
beings.
how do they build, how do they, like, cuz from my understanding, what starts unlocking and unwrapping the egg and the sperm is the divine spark of the father taking those two building materials and telling it exactly what to create, and so it starts creating that exact thing. um, and so I don't see how they are tricking the embryo to start crafting that person's body, but not also their mind and their senses and everything else. Like, it just, I don't understand how it would be possible. I'm not saying it isn't impossible.
it's a meat shell, and just like what Austin had on his one of his videos about clone aid up in Canada, that's supposedly cloning people, building people, or whatever. That guy that said that he came from clone aid and he gave his birth date or his clone date or whatever. That dude had no, like, he had, his eyes were just empty. It's like an empty shell.
Yeah,
But
it's like a meat suit. It definitely is, and I think it's soulless.
I don't get how that can be made, but I'm not saying it's impossible. But
anyway,
yeah,
Well,
so any other random question or anything that you kind of wanted to bring up from what you've already heard us talking about so far?
who are you addressing that to?
Oh, to you, Sean.
yeah,
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. I just, as long as people truly understand the difference between a pre-flood Nephilim and a post-flood Nephilim, I think that's really important to know that there is a spiritual difference. The post-flood are just men that are manipulated. They're not the actual offspring of an angel to a woman. And then the pre-flood, um, this is the judgment to the Watchers before the flood was because they took wives and had kids. So after the flood, there's only one angel left, according to Enoch, and that's this
Mhm.
Azazel character that we call Satan.
Mhm.
So if he started taking more wives and having more Nephilim, why isn't he punished? Because he
Totally.
didn't even
Totally.
take, according to Enoch, he didn't even take a wife to begin with. So he didn't do the exact same sin that the other angels did, that Samyaza and the other angels did. So
I
that's
that
why he got a different judgment.
you going over that actually reminded me of a question that I wanted to ask you. So in when that whole okay, so do you think during pre-flood times that the people were doing things the humans, the normal humans, do you think that they were doing things that made them only think of wicked and corrupted things? Like, what I mean is, whatever the giants were post flood, was it that same thing where humans were getting to a point where it was almost like pushing out the father's like spark inside of them out, and then they could no longer like, do you think that maybe, and then those people are the ones that would be in Tartarus?
Personally, I
What
think
do you think
very
about that?
Yeah, I think the mankind was being taught corruption and wickedness from two entities, the rebellious angels and their sons, the Nephilim. This is what Enoch tells us. And I also agree with it's either you, Vader Bear, or Anthony earlier that said the angels themselves didn't get punished immediately in the days of Enoch. They actually waited a long time before they got their punishment because they had to watch their sons die first and kill each other off. So that was a
right.
part of their punishment. So they didn't. I personally think they were alive much closer. I shouldn't say that. I think the rebellious angels, the Watchers, that get taken down to Tartarus, I think that they were still on the earth, very much close to the flood, and continuing to teach wickedness to mankind, and then through their sons, also the Nephilim, the giants, also continuing to oppress mankind, destroy them, attack them, teach wickedness, and this was, yeah, they're also teaching them every form of lawlessness available, which gets to the point of Genesis 6:5, in my opinion, which is at this point, at Genesis 6:5, there's only Noah and his family left who are actual preachers of righteousness. They actually know the Father's behavior and are doing it. Everybody else on the earth has been corrupted and is practicing corruption generationally, teaching their children, the the wicked elite that rule the world today. They still do the same practices, right? They teach their children from childhood how to do their practices, and those children grow up and they do those practices. Very few of them actually break away from that. And so this is why I've always said Abraham, after the flood, was so important, because Jubilees 12 says that he actually broke away from the influence of his father, who was the commander to Nimrod. So like he's growing up in these practices that's corrupting Babylonia. And Nimrod actually breaks away, or excuse me, Abraham actually breaks away from it and follows Yahweh. This is like a huge deal. So anyway, just the pre-flood, that's why I would say the wickedness of man's heart was imagining evil continually, because it was being forced upon them and they were participating in it, because they would have Noah to preach to them what's right behavior, but apparently they were choosing wrong behavior. And it got to a point of absolution where the only people doing right behavior was Noah and his family. And that's why those are the ones that were saved.
And even though Noah was preaching to them for 120 years about it, they still didn't believe. That's things that gets me right there. They were told, but they turned away.
Well, yeah, I mean, like we see people do this all the time, right? Like even in the second coming of Yeshua, we're going to see the same thing where the two witnesses are preaching to the whole world and they can't be killed for 42 months. And they're going to be preaching with incredible signs and wonders. People are still going to hate them and try to kill them and not believe their message. So deception is a horrible thing.
Right.
So imagine being in a world where you see angelic beings, and then you see their children that are these giant rulers of the nation, or of the peoples, and they have their own system of living. And part of that system of living, is the pantheon that they worship pre-flood. At the top of that pantheon are these rebellious angels that have ridiculous ability to change their form and fly and do crazy stuff. So I don't know the exact powers that these guys had compared to like the angel that shows up and kills 184,000 Assyrians, book of First Chronicles. But I know that they probably had some powers that mankind didn't, And they did know the secrets of heaven. This is what Enoch chapter, I think, 8 says. They taught mankind the secrets of heaven they were striving to learn. So they did know all this advanced stuff, and that's very, as we already know, that's very enticing to mankind. It's an easy way to bring them in and deceive them into this type of Masonic order where you learn by degree and then you get enlightened at the top of that pyramid of learning. So I 100% believe that all of mankind was being corrupted to the point where they were thinking evilly continually, because that is the religion. Everything about it is backwards thinking to Yahweh. Everything about it's backwards and evil. So, and they were destroying the earth, which is what verse 13 in Genesis 6 says as well. Verse 11 through 13. The earth was being corrupted as well. So this is why in First Enoch, I think it's chapter 65, in the book of Noah, it actually has a moment where Noah sees a vision of part of heaven falling down and the earth, big parts of the land of the earth rising up, and other parts falling down in a great flood. And then he runs to the edge of the Garden of Eden to try to talk to Enoch about it. That's where they have that small discourse, and Enoch explains the vision to him.
I've read that in the book of Joshua as well. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting story.
Yeah.
Um,
By the way,
So
last thing, guys, you mentioned earlier about the bloodlines with Ham and Enoch chapter 105. It says that Noah had his 3 sons of Noah all came out different colors.
wow.
So Ham came out black, Shem came out fair skinned, I believe, and then Japheth came out red. I think it was, or maybe I got it backwards. Maybe Japheth was fair skinned and like white, and then Shem was red.
Can I don't know if you've ever read the Aramaic Targum. Can I read something to you out of the Aramaic Targum right quick? About
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna have to find it, but I'm right here at it. But it says that whenever, let's see, I'm right here, and what's the thing? I'm very sorry. I hadn't looked it up, but it says that when Yahuwah created mankind, he created red, black, and white. Oh, and
How
that's
do you do that with one guy?
what's that?
How do you do that with Adam?
I don't know. That's
What?
that's kind of think that humankind was created in Genesis 1, and then he just formed Adam in Genesis 2. I think that Adam was created in Genesis 1, but mainly just a spirit. I think everybody's spirit was created in Genesis 1, and then in Genesis 2 is
Yeah.
he started.
Well, you guys, I mean, y'all watch my channel, so you may have heard me say this before, but just with all respect to anyone else that teaches from the Targum, there's a reason why I stay away from it. If you look up the history of the Targums, guys, they went to literally, it's in the Jewish histories. Like if you go to Chabad.org, you can look up the history of the Targums.
Mhm.
This is not secret information. This is not. It's printed. You can research it. That the Targums that we have today, the Onkelos and the Jonathan, the Jerusalem Targum, in the 2nd century, between the 2nd and 9th century AD, they were taken to Babylon by the rabbis of the day, where they were didactically edited, which means they inserted things in there according to their understanding to teach a moral lesson. This is why the Targum has lots of extra information inserted compared to the other texts we find. So this is why I don't teach. I don't teach from it for my channel, because I don't want the opinions inserted of rabbi of an ilk that rejects the Father and the Son, because I don't think they have the spirit of teaching it.
Totally.
I don't think that and a lot of their stuff contradicts. For example, the Onkelos Targum claims that the angels were made on day 2, whereas Jubilees tells us the angels were made on day 1.
Uh-huh.
So this is why you never.
Contradiction right there, yeah.
Yeah, well, that would make a lot of sense for them to do that, to lead us away from the truth.
And to
'Cause
make
that's
it
what-
more subjective, just like the rabbinical teachers always had done, which was exactly what Yeshua was rebuking when he was talking about the law. But Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, so I kind of would. I don't know. I haven't really ever really read from the Targum. Anthony has shared from me, but I was thinking about this. So how it is appointed for men to to man to work 6 days and then rest the seventh. um, that thought came to me as I was reading Genesis 1, and I was kind of looking back at it, and the structure of it. Now, I understand that there's a common belief that Genesis 1 is just like a summary of this is what happened, and then it goes into Genesis 2 where it's then going back and telling you what specifically what happened on day 6 with the creation of Adam and Eve. But I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking about the again this work 7 days and then rest the seventh, and if they were spiritually, if mankind was like all of us were created um at that same time during the sixth day or whatever, just hear me out, then um one, the Father would know us before we were conceived, which he could also other ways. I'm not saying that's the only way, but also, oh, oh, we lost him. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. I'd like to. Hopefully, he can find his way back in here. He may have just lost reception or something. But just to finish out my thought, was to say that if 7 days happened and then the eighth day happened, which is pretty significant with like a within like a lot of things like the new like the Shabbat and the Jerusalem coming down on that eighth day and it being like a new creation, a new thing. I thought was interesting is because when he put the body and then he breathed the breath of life, there was all this new creation. So it's like kind of interesting connecting that eighth day with a new creation being Adam taking that spirit and the body and then the breath of life and creating this whole new being that hadn't existed yet. So I get that all of his work was done. Um, it all of his work was done ever? Like, yeah, I totally could be wrong, but the other interesting part I was pulling up with the amount of days, if Adam was created on the eighth day, then he would have 6 days of work, or 6 days of doing learning Torah or whatever it would be, and then the seventh day a rest. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I'm not saying that's 100% true. That's just kind of what I've come to, but I'm definitely not married to it.
About 15 minutes ago, actually. But I wish I could have clarified. I don't like 100% go by the Targum either. I do like to compare a little bit and read what this one says, read what that one says, and stuff like that. And I just thought it was kind of interesting that he had brought up that Shem, Ham, and Japheth were different colors. And it also says back in the Targum that when the spirit of mankind was created, they were created red, black, and white as well.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah.
it just kind of fit, it
Yeah.
just all.
No, yeah, that was awesome. All right, well, we are already running over the 2 hours. I did want to kind of say a couple things before we say our goodbyes and play "Love as Your Witness," but um, I'm so super glad that you ended up joining us, Daryl. It was so awesome also to have um, Sean from Kingdom in Context join us.
Yeah, that was great.
I would love to just set up like I know you came and we'll say that's a surprise guest, but I'd really love to like um, you know figure out something with you, Sean, where you would be um, like the most stoked in talking about and joining us at the table and going over that and setting up a time where we can have you on as a special guest Whether
Right.
you want to do it as a like a presentation, or whether you want, and then we can talk about the presentation, or whether you want to just join us in like again like a general conversation, that would be awesome. But go ahead. What were you gonna say, Anthony?
I was gonna say, maybe somebody from our channel hasn't heard of his channel or something like that, and he could get kind of promote it and what he goes over as well on his channel. And in case somebody just hasn't heard of it or something, but I highly recommend it to everybody. It's a great channel, very explanatory. If I said that word right.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant by him picking up the mantle of Rob. Like, I didn't mean it in any disrespect when I said it last week. That he's going to, like, because he knows everything about the Nephilim, the pre-flood, post-flood, the difference between the new two Nephilim. I never even heard that. That was so cool. How the Nephilim of our age are more of an alchemy base
Well, they're not
than the
even Nephilim.
flood.
They're just humans that have perversed their bodies, whereas the pre-flood
Right,
ones
exactly.
were creations of
Right,
the Watcher.
right. I mean, I didn't. That was new. That was news to me. That was a great analogy that he gave us, so that now we can know the contrast of what time we're in compared to what was before the flood. You know what I mean? Because we're living in a post-flood era, so now we know what the special boys are pretty much up to,
Right. And I
creating
impressed Frank.
creating their Nephilim. You know what I mean?
See, Frank, I was under the impression that you already knew that, brother. I could have explained that to you easily. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, I kind of knew, but I didn't know for a concrete, you know, revelation of it. You know what I mean?
And
He really put it down, and
and
he
when I
really
specifically
distinguished between the two.
yeah, and when I showed you where it like specifically said in all flesh, everything that breathed air for life, all of it died. Every man. So yeah, like everything for sure died. So it is something separate. I just always wondered what that mechanism was. He was saying, he was saying the pharmakia route, which I totally understand. I think that may I don't know. I don't know if that will get you to a point where you can literally kick out the spark of life, like the that
Well,
spark of the
but you
father
got to
out of
look at
you,
it.
like
You
that
or
got to
guy
the
look at it. You got to
about
look at it like this, Vader, too. That you have all these politicians and these special people, these elites that are living to 90, and their Prince Philip was almost 100
Mhm.
before he passed away. You know what I mean? So they're
Totally.
doing something genetically to themselves to continue their lifespan
Even
into their
even if it's
late
just
80s and
like what
90s.
even if what they're doing is that they're just eating like real food made correctly, in the right proportions
It could be a
with the
simple thing
yeah,
like that, but it
totally.
could be a booster shot too that they're taking,
Who yeah,
or some
who
type
knows?
of
Or nefarious things or some type of
or some type
connection
of
with evil
alchemy that they've
spirits. Yeah,
or
absolutely.
some type of
Absolutely.
alchemy that they've found from post flood era or pre flood era that
Uh
they're tapping into that they're giving
I
themselves. You
think
know
it
what I
would
mean?
well, I think it would be post Nimrod era or post Babylon
Right.
era, but
Well, that's what
it's all the
Nimrod
same
did.
system.
Nimrod made himself a giant. He made himself a Nephilim. You know what I mean?
He did
And you
something
had brought
different
that
than
up
I think.
before.
I think he did something differently to himself, definitely than just what the like Canaanites and etc. did. But anyways,
Well, he
guys,
used
we're
sorcery and alchemy.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're running way past over, so it was super awesome conversation. I love it. Everyone will have another one next week. That topic will be coming up. All I want to say, so we'll just say our goodbyes. We'll play "Love Is Your Witness," and then if anyone wants to join us on Discord. Please, there is a link in the description. Just join us there. We have tons of conversation, both text and voice chat. So it's a super fun place and a great resource to talk to like-minded individuals, as well as we always say here, like we're iron sharpens iron. That requires heat, friction, and the removal of material. You have to remove some of this stuff, whether it's Catholic doctrine or previous, other sources of misbehavior. We all are trying to grow here and grow closer to the Father. That should be all our goal. So, and we're just coming to this table with our pieces of the puzzle. Obviously, some have more, some have others, but it's awesome that we're able to have this platform to be able to do that, not only on YouTube but on Discord. So yeah, join us on Discord for YouTube. Please like and comment and subscribe. Like comments really help us get seen by more people. Like I know you heard it a million times, but it really does. And then that just allows us to have bigger, more chairs at the table, more people that want to talk and want to explain and have fellowship with each other. Even though it may not be in person, it's definitely good for the mind, body, and soul. So, anyways, I'll go ahead and throw it off to Anthony. Brother, it was amazing as always. Thank you so much for always joining me and being here. I do appreciate it. Go ahead and say goodbye to everyone, and we'll go on from there.
Yeah, well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And just want to tell Sean, thank you for jumping on with us and clarifying some of that stuff, because my brain went Biscotti style whenever I
I,
saw that.
I pulled out my ladle. I don't know about you.
But after it was clarified, I get it now. I see what's going on now. I just got lost for a minute, but I appreciate him for coming on and clarifying that. I appreciate everybody that came out and hung out with us in the YouTube on Take on the World and on in Closed Cosmology Fellowship. Much love to y'all. Many blessings. Thank y'all so much, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. Shabbat Shalom to y'all, and hope to see y'all next week.
Awesome, brother. Absolutely. And even though you joined us a little late, we always love that you're here anyways, brother. And I know you're going to be in the after chat and loving on us anyways. But go ahead and say hi, goodbyes to everyone. And
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And yeah, sorry I didn't make it there in the beginning. But anyhow, yeah, hopefully see y'all in the chat afterwards. Yeah, have a good one now. All right, Shabbat Shalom.
awesome. Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, bro. Um, Yeah, dude. Any time that you're able to join us, don't think I was throwing anything at you. I love anytime anyone join us. You can join us at any point. There's no be here at the beginning or don't be here. So we always love people joining us. So, but anyways, Shabbat Shalom indeed, and then I'll go ahead and say, yeah, guys, thank you all for being here. We love it. We love this growing community. We see more and more people coming to Discord every day, and conversations getting started, and questions getting asked, and thoughts getting challenged. So it's definitely a place to learn and grow. And we all have something to add. We all have pieces of the puzzle to share. So I would love to. I'd love for you to share them with me. So as everyone else would. So, anyways, I'm gonna throw it out to last, and I'll let you throw out your new song here. Um, my brother Frankie, how you doing, brother?
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. That was a great episode. It was totally stoked talking to Sean. That was such a blessing that he came on. Sean, if you can hear us, thank you so much. It was amazing. We'd love to have an exclusive show with you where you just come on, talk about whatever topic you want. And thank you, Vader, for playing my song. It's called Love is Your Witness. Me and Nick recorded it just for this, just for this podcast, just for you guys. So enjoy it. Shabbat Shalom. Be blessed and enjoy the rest of your week. All praise the Yah.
Here is Love is Your Witness.
is your witness. Love is your witness. Love is your witness.